My daily routine was like many others, a repetitive cycle of work, responsibilities, and a silent search for something I still couldn't name. I woke up early, feeling the weight of thoughts constantly spinning in my mind. Bills to pay, endless hours at the office, a forced smile on my face as I faced the day. Inside, there was a persistent sense of being trapped, as if my essence was hidden behind a wall of routines and societal expectations. There were moments of silence, but they felt empty of meaning. I wondered if, perhaps, I was searching for something greater, an answer to what my true existence really was. But everything seemed distant, like a fog that refused to lift. I felt an emptiness, a sense that there was a part of me that could never be filled by success, recognition, or material achievements. Life felt like an aimless race, where the end was always an invisible line approaching without warning. My desire for validation was constant. Working hard, pleasing my parents, conforming to society. Everything seemed like a piece of a puzzle that never quite fit. In quiet nights, when silence was almost deafening, I would feel a sudden anguish, a doubt that grew stronger. Is there something beyond this? That question, often hidden in the shadows of my thoughts, seemed to pulse deep within my being, a silent hope that never quite materialized. On that ordinary day, during a moment of reflection in heavy traffic, I realized that something inside was beginning to change, slowly. A growing restlessness, like a spark of flame starting to ignite within me. A sense that my structured world could collapse at any moment. And in that quiet storm forming inside me, something else seemed to be at the door. A door I didn't yet see, one that would take me beyond what my mind and emotions could imagine. My relationship with my family was a mixture of love and distance, a web of unresolved feelings that I carried like a constant shadow. My parents always strived to provide the best, but there was an invisible barrier between us, a struggle to express deep emotions. My bond with my brothers, though filled with small jokes and complicity, was often clouded by unspoken resentments, unmet expectations, differing choices, dreams that seemed out of reach. As a child, I recall moments filled with silent anguish when I sought acceptance but was met with indifference or veiled criticism. One night, sitting on the balcony and watching the stars, I felt an overwhelming loneliness, a deep sense of disconnect from that core which should have been my safe haven. Since then, I carried a persistent doubt. If my family was truly my home, why did I feel like a stranger within my own house? Over the years, these internal conflicts grew, fueled by differences and misunderstandings. There was a sense of isolation, even among those I loved most. Inside me, doubts about my own decisions and life choices intensified. I felt that something crucial was missing, a piece lost in the puzzle of my happiness. And so, this silent pain, this feeling of not belonging completely, accumulated, elevating an even greater emptiness that seemed to echo deep within my soul. Within this tense dynamic, my emotions became a mix of frustration, impotence, and a hunger for genuine recognition and affection. Many nights, I wondered if I would ever be able to convince my own family of who I truly was, or if I was destined to live in the shadow of internal conflicts that might never find resolution. This invisible battle was a constant weight, until the day everything began to change in a way no one could have imagined. My youth was marked by a series of moments that, at the time, seemed small, almost insignificant, but would later take on deep meaning. I lost beloved friends at a young age, and that left an invisible scar that never fully healed. I remember the feeling of helplessness when I saw someone depart, a loss that seemed too profound for my young maturity to comprehend. These experiences shaped my understanding of fragility and mortality. Unfulfilled dreams also left their mark on my journey. I had hope of pursuing a different career, of achieving something that truly filled my heart. but I ended up walking paths others expected from me, not my own. I always found it easy to imagine a life of achievements, freedom, and adventure, yet routine, mediocrity, and even fear of taking risks prevented those dreams from taking form. The sensation of stagnation settled in, like a shadow slowly growing. There's a childhood memory that years later gained a new significance in my eyes. A visit to the old church in my town, with its colorful windows and sacred silence. At that moment, I felt an inexplicable peace, a connection to something greater, even if I couldn't define what it was. Back then, I saw it as a fleeting experience, a reminder of an inner spirituality I sadly left behind over the years. Youth taught me about losses, about dreams that seemed so distant, and about a silent hope that there was something more, hidden beyond what I could see. That hope was a tiny flame, protected by a layer of doubts, but it never fully went out. Today, I understand that all those moments were preparation for what was to come, a silent training for the greatest transformation of all. Looking back, I realized my life was marked by expectations that never materialized as I had envisioned. From an early age, I built lofty dreams, nourishing hope for a fulfilling existence, for genuine achievements and happiness. Yet in practice, everything seemed to slip through my fingers. The promises I made to myself stayed on paper. Opportunities always seemed out of reach, and a persistent shadow of failure settled within me. With each unfinished master's degree, each promotion that never arrived, every relationship ending with a bitter taste of disappointment, I accumulated an endless anxiety. I tried to fill this void with work, with withdrawal, or with small distractions, but nothing fully worked. I carried a silent frustration, a lament hidden in my soul, an unceasing doubt. Is there something more? Something beyond these hollow expectations? There was also a feeling that my life was suspended, an eternal wait for something that never clearly appeared. I bore within me a near desperate hope that there was a greater answer, a hidden truth I still couldn't comprehend. It was a spiritual hunger, a thirst for something that wouldn't be satisfied by worldly things. In the loneliness of night, these questions intensified. Who am I? What is my true purpose? Where am I really headed? This internal search, filled with doubts and unmet desires, created an almost constant restlessness within my soul. The feeling of drifting between what I longed for and what I managed to accomplish fed a quiet hope that one day, everything would make sense. That hope was like a faint, fragile light, never fully extinguished, even on the darkest days. It was an ordinary night, yet filled with an invisible tension. The silence in the house seemed to weigh heavily on me as each thought piled up like an approaching storm. Sitting on my bed, I occasionally gazed out the window, searching for answers in the stars that felt so distant. A feeling that something was about to happen hung in the air, but I couldn't quite grasp what it was. That day, an unexpected argument with someone I loved marked the beginning of a chain of events that could never be undone. A word spoken in a heated moment, an unresolved hurt, an accumulated resentment over the years. All seemed to explode inside me, like an internal tempest I couldn't contain. The anguish became a tangible, almost physical presence, as silent tears traced down my face. That night, somehow, everything started to shift. A sense of fragility, of standing on the edge of an abyss, intensified. It was as if, in that instant, my soul was being gently pulled out of my body. Slowly, without pain, just a dazzling lightness. The physical world seemed to dissolve, giving way to a diffuse, warm, and inviting glow. I felt an unseen door opening, inviting me to step through. It was at that moment I realized my life, along with all its conflicts, expectations, and struggles, was at a crossroads. There was a deep knowing within me that this was merely the beginning of a much greater journey, a transition that would forever change everything. And silently, my consciousness began to detach from what I had always known as reality, entering a realm where everything was more vibrant, more real, and at the same time, astonishingly serene. It all happened so quickly, yet in a way that seemed to unfold over eternity. Awakening no longer felt necessary. A sensation of complete liberation flooded my being, as if I could float beyond what my eyes and body had ever known. The light surrounding me was warm, comforting, almost unreal in its perfection. There was no pain, only an overwhelming sense of relief, as if a heavy burden had been softly lifted from my shoulders. Suddenly, I became aware that I no longer had a physical body. There was no weight, no tangible sensation of hands or feet, only a pure consciousness, a pulsating energy flowing free from its vessel of flesh. My very essence seemed to expand outward and simultaneously detach. A radiant light, reminiscent of the sun but without intense heat, enveloped everything around me. A serene glow radiating peace and understanding. It was as if an invisible veil was being lifted. Everything around me dissolved into vibrant colors, gentle movements of light and shadow intertwined in a silent dance. A feeling of being embraced by something greater, a benevolent presence, enveloped me in an unseen hug, showing me that this was only the beginning of my true journey. Deep down, there was a silent certainty. My soul was being summoned to something that surpassed everything I had ever known. After leaving my physical body behind, all that remained was an overwhelming sensation of absolute lightness, as if my essence was being carried by an invisible breeze, slowly, gently. There was no more weight, no pain, only an unconditional freedom. It was the purest sensation I've ever experienced in my life, for being above everything, beyond everything, like a bird soaring freely through the sky in deep silence. Around me, I perceived subtle sounds, almost like a whisper in the background, that came from nowhere and everywhere at once, pulsating in the vibration of my being, a murmuring of energies, a hymn of light that seemed to embrace everything. These sounds weren't confined to space. They flowed fluidly, like waves of peace crossing through space and time. Vibrant colors, far beyond what my eyes had ever seen, flickered rapidly, forming a luminous tapestry stretching infinitely. Every movement was like a harmonious symphony of energies and silent dance that intoxicated my consciousness. The sensation of floating was also an experience of complete connection, a feeling of unity, as if everything was a single mechanism of energy, light, and love. No obstacles, no limits, just an expansion of myself beyond the boundaries of the physical body. Within this freedom, I realized that everything made sense, as if I were receiving a direct response to the deep silence within, a message that, in essence, I had never truly been separate from everything around me. Suddenly, my perception shifted. As if my cells moved to a broader perspective, I was able to look from outside of my own body. There it was, lying still on the bed, enveloped by a soft glow that seemed to wrap around every fiber of its existence. It was surreal, almost like a distant memory, an image so vivid that our brains would struggle to recreate it. But there, with crystalline clarity, I saw every detail: disheveled hair, the expression of peace or surprise. I don't remember. Exactly, that rested on the face. It was as if in that moment I could perceive my own essence, an invisible presence that accompanied that physical image. What a contrast, that fragile mortal body and myself, the awareness flourishing from outside. This vision carried no judgment, only a profound understanding. Everything was temporary, a garment that my spirit wore for a while, a vivid reminder that, behind matter, there exists an eternal essence that no force could erase or destroy. At the same time, the feeling of detachment intensified, almost like a wave of peace invading me. I could feel the weight of the world, all the pain, doubts, and hopes deposited in that body, still and silent on the bed. But my real perception was of freedom. Freedom to observe, to understand that this was just a bridge, a passage, a transformation. Looking through the eyes of one who had already touched eternity, I realized that this vision was an opportunity for understanding, a final lesson before moving on. In that moment of pure perception, something deeply settled within me, an indescribable peace. It was as if the silence around me had become a living presence, a calmness filling every inch of my soul. My heart, which previously beat with anxiety, now moved at a gentler pace, in harmony with the eternal quiet that enveloped me. This peace was not born from words, nor from any rational understanding. It was a vibration of pure love, a feeling that I was exactly where I needed to be. Yet, alongside that serenity came an instinctive wave of fear and fascination. The fear was silent, latent, a consciousness that everything was so vast and unknown that any attempt at understanding felt minuscule. There was the idea that I was facing something that challenged all my human perceptions, a dimension beyond the limits of the body and mind. At the same time, an irresistible fascination arose, a near desperation to explore that universe of light, energy, and infinite possibilities. It was a paradox, a peace inviting rest, yet a restlessness compelling. Curiosity, like a child trying to understand the mystery of the universe, my spirit felt touched by a force that was both welcoming and unfathomable. My heart beat with a silent hope that all of this was just one face of a greater truth, something beyond. Human comprehension, a gateway to a reality where love and light are the only law. In that instant, I realized that the essence of everything and of myself was to embrace this mystery, this infinite field of possibilities. Suddenly, from the infinite white light, a figure emerged. Luminous, ethereal, overflowing with a presence that radiated love and peace. It was not a concrete image. It was a living energy, a pulsating light manifesting in soft, elegant forms. Its eyes were not eyes, but depths of compassion and understanding, as if penetrating every layer of my being and touching my deepest emotions. It did not speak with words, but its communication was a symphony of energies, a vibration that passed through my thoughts and feelings. Every gesture, every gaze seemed to convey a universal truth, unconditional love. This luminous creature enveloped me with a sensation of absolute embrace, like a hug that encompasses all that we are, our doubts, fears, and hopes. As I floated beside it, I felt an intense connection that seemed to dissolve my doubts and fears. A calm and secure feeling flooded my interior, as if I were finally in the presence of what I had always sought, even without knowing it. It was like looking into a mirror of my own essence, the source of a loving presence that calms and elevates, making me realize that everything is part of a great and eternal love. At that moment, my heart opened into silent gratitude. A realization that, there before me, was a manifestation of light revealing the true face of existence, pure, infinite, full of compassion. In that invisible contact, I felt a renewed hope that life, even after the physical farewell, continues in forms of love and light that never fade. Beside me, that luminous entity began to merge with everything around me, and suddenly, everything made sense. The colors were no longer just shades. They were vibrations pulsating in a silent symphony, a rainbow of intertwined emotions and energies. Each hue vibrated with transcendental intensity, as if the entire universe breathed in unison, in an unforgettable harmony. Soft sounds, more like a melody of pure peace, filled the space. It was as if the universe was singing an ancient song, a tune of love never heard in the physical dimension but resonating deeply within the soul. There were no words, only sensations of a profound connection, and feeling of belonging to something greater than any human understanding could grasp. At that moment, I realized that everything, time, space, Even my own sense of separation was dissolving into this unity. The energies that once seemed scattered now blended into a continuous flow of life, permeating all. It was like an infinite embrace, enveloping every particle of my essence and all of creation. The sense of union was also an understanding that there are no true boundaries. The entire universe, my emotions, doubts, and my soul, all were just one vibration of love and light. This connection brought me a silent peace, a certainty that we are all parts of a grand symphony, eternal and perfect. In that instant, I lost the sense of a separate self, feeling myself entirely part of this divine whole, eternally linked to everything that exists. And then, at the very center of this entire experience, a radiant presence appeared, a light that seemed to envelop everything, like an invisible cloak of warmth and comfort. It was not an ordinary light, but a pure energy, radiating boundless love and understanding. Its intensity did not overpower, but invited. Its glow did not blind, but soothed. It was as if each particle of attention was fully turned toward it, emanating a peace that mended even the deepest wounds of the soul. This light had no shape. It was merely a pulsating presence, moving in a steady rhythm, as if it were the heartbeat of the universe itself. Its beauty was indescribable, an impossible combination of colors beyond human imagination, a transparency that transcended any linear concept of light. It was an energy that embraced everything: me, the universe, the stars, the souls, a direct connection to the essence of everything that exists. As this light enveloped me, I felt protected, like a child in a mother's arms, knowing all pains and joys. That comforting presence seemed to whisper a silent message of acceptance, of total understanding. There was no judgment, only unconditional love. So vast it nearly dissolved my old notions of separation. In this state, I perceived that this light was, in fact, the very essence of God, of the whole, a universal heart beating eternally. And there, beneath its glow, I understood that nothing could separate me from that infinite love, that somehow we have always been connected by this never-fading light. In that state of deep connection, my perception expanded even further. Suddenly, quick visions flashed before me like glimpses of ancient wisdom. They were images and ideas intertwined, forming messages of clarity and depth that transcend human words. These visions were not just visual, but a blend of sensations, whispers of words in the very essence, universal truths reverberating deep within my core. I saw beings of light, figures vibrating with radiant energy, entities carrying immense peace and infinite compassion. They were not defined entities with fixed forms, but manifestations of purity radiating love and understanding. Some of these beings communicated with me through a silent exchange, a kind of energy telepathy where every thought and feeling was fully understood. These messages echoed truths that resonated in my soul, that we are all manifestations of a single source, that love is the primal force sustaining creation, and that death is merely a passage. In an instant, I realized that this entire communication was an expression of a greater plan, a logic of love and harmony governing everything, even what appears chaotic or incomprehensible in the physical dimension. It was as if a wave of knowledge poured into my consciousness, clearing ancient mysteries and revealing that eternity is an ongoing experience of understanding, a connection that never rips apart, even after physical departure. These rapid visions left an indelible mark. Feeling that everything makes sense, a universal truth accessible to all, simply by opening the heart to receive. Suddenly, a sequence of images began to play before me, like a speeded-up film. Small moments, silent choices, intense emotions and their consequences, all came to light with startling clarity. I saw my childhood, carefree laughs, moments of pain and helplessness, decisions I made without fully understanding. Each scene was like a piece of a puzzle, fragmented yet forming an entire story, my story. It was like witnessing a memorial of everything I had been, every action and reaction, every love and mistake, every emotion, from hope to fear, washed over me like a wave I couldn't control, surfacing doubts and profound lessons. In that instant, I realized everything was connected, that every choice, no matter how small, had an impact on this invisible eternity that embraced me. It was a feeling of absolute self-awareness, no judgment, only an understanding that everything was part of a greater plan, a journey of learning. The emotions I had experienced before, in that moment, turned into lessons, and I saw clearly that nothing was by chance. Every step, tear, and smile had a purpose. And in that very moment, that truth echoed through eternity, that my life, with all its highs and lows, had a beauty and a purpose that went far beyond what my mind could comprehend. In the deepest silence of that experience, I felt a presence arise within me, an entity that seemed to be my very essence, an expression of my soul, reflected in a way I had never perceived in the physical dimension. It was a pure consciousness, a light carrying my doubts, fears, and most secret hopes. It possessed a calming presence, yet simultaneously challenging, as if questioning everything I believed about myself and the world. I felt as if I was looking into an invisible mirror, a force penetrating to the very roots of my being. This consciousness questioned my doubts and fears in a way that seemed to love, embrace, and challenge me all at once. I realized it wasn't an external being, but a part of myself waiting to be discovered, understood, a silent guide seeking to awaken my true essence. It was like confronting my own self through radical honesty, where each fear was illuminated and each doubt became an opportunity for growth. My deepest questions, who am I? Where am I headed? What lies beyond life? Were met with a silent response of love and understanding, as if my soul was whispering the purest truth. At the height of this inner encounter, I understood that this presence wasn't separate from me, but an integral part of my eternal essence. A silent truth was born in that moment, that deep down, we are all this light, this loving consciousness that questions, seeks, and ultimately finds its truth in eternity. And with this realization, I felt a profound peace, as if I had finally reconnected with my truest self, my immortal soul. In that moment of profound connection, an invisible message, yet loaded with meaning, revealed itself in my consciousness. It was a silent voice, an inner certainty pulsating with a force that transcends words. Death is not the end, but a transformation. A passage into a new reality of love, light, and learning. This message came as a subtle but undeniable reminder that everything that occurs here is merely a phase in an endless journey. I realized that all the pain, fear, and doubt that once consumed my soul were just temporary illusions, a chapter in an infinite story of evolution. Death, far from being a farewell, is a transition to something greater, a chance at spiritual rebirth. That understanding renewed my hope, a sense of reclaiming a universal truth that has always existed, but that I was only beginning to truly perceive at that moment. It was like a promise. No matter how difficult life's experiences may be, they are part of a preparation for something more sublime. An invitation to trust the process, to trust the wisdom of the universe, which always guides us back to the light, back to unconditional love. This message, delivered as a silent certainty, enveloped me like an eternal embrace, filling my soul with hope and security, an unwavering belief that nothing is lost, everything transforms and evolves, always toward the light. Even bathed in light and peace, a deep doubt began to emerge within me, as if a silent voice, my own mind, questioned everything I had just experienced. It was a quiet struggle, an inner storm trying to distinguish reality from illusion. I felt these doubts pulsating in my mind, challenging the authenticity of everything I had lived so far. I asked myself, was all of this just an illusion? Maybe a projection of my mind, a very vivid dream? The doubt was like shadows trying to darken the clarity of that transcendental moment. A subtle fear, a resistance arising to understand whether that love, that light, were merely passing experiences or a profound reality beyond the physical. I sought answers inside myself, trying to find meaning in those sensations. It was an internal battle, a conflict between reason and soul. How to tell what is true from what is merely an illusion created by our limited mind? That restless questioning gnawed at me, yet simultaneously ignited my thirst to understand. It was an inner calling, a pursuit of a greater, more permanent truth that transcended human comprehension. At this stage, I realized that doubt is part of the path, a bridge between what we know and what we still need to discover. And even in doubt, I felt a subtle peace, a silent confidence that this internal struggle was also part of the process of evolution. Like a seed needing rain to sprout, those open questions were essential parts of my spiritual awakening. Suddenly, my consciousness was lifted beyond everything I knew. I began to see landscapes of light, vast, radiant, filled with a serenity that transcends any description. It was like an extension of the cosmos itself, a tapestry of forms of existence unlike anything in our material reality. There, space unfolded in infinite shades of white, gold, blue, and silver, forming scenes that seemed made of pure energy and love. The forms I perceived were fluid, like waves of light dancing, silently without limits, beyond any physical definition. Some of these shapes resembled human figures, but far beyond concrete images. They were beings of transcendent beauty, carrying immense wisdom. It was a sensation of elevation, of floating in an environment where time and space lost their validity, and everything became a continuous flow of light and love. For me, this vision was like an excursion into the deepest layers of existence, a plunge into a universe of absolute purity, where everything is a manifestation of divine energy. The feeling was that everything dissolved into the universal consciousness, a place where souls dwell in an eternal peace, a perfection only infinity can contain. It was a visit to a dimension where life pulses in its most pure essence, beyond physical limitations, beyond our human perceptions. In that space of light, I felt as if an inner voice, gentle and immense, began to reveal the most profound teachings of the universe. It wasn't a wisdom conveyed through words, but through direct understanding, knowledge that touched the heart. I saw that the essence of the Spirit is unconditional love, a pure force that sustains all of creation, an energy without limits or conditions. These teachings were like a seed planted deeply within my soul, the truth that we are all manifestations of this eternal love energy. There is no separation, no fear, only a unity beating in every particle of the universe. This truth, which seemed so simple, carried the weight of eternity, to love unconditionally, to accept without judgment, to understand beyond words and actions. I realized that all the struggles, pain, and anxiety I carried in human life were temporary contradictions to this infinite essence, God's unconditional love, of the universe and of everything that exists. That love does not depend on merits, achievements, or perfect forms. It simply is, and within it, everything finds its deepest meaning. This teaching brought me a peace I had never experienced before, an understanding that, fundamentally, we are all expressions of this light, this loving force that never abandons us, even when we forget it in the physical dimension. And at that moment, I understood that the higher purpose of every journey is to remember our true nature, to live and love unconditionally, simply because we are part of this eternal essence. In that moment of profound revelation, a silent yet powerful answer emerged within me. It did not come in words, but as a vibrant certainty. I am the eternal love, the divine essence that dwells in everything. Those questions that often consumed me in life, who am I and where am I going, finally found an understanding beyond rationality. I saw that my true identity was not limited to my personality, my fears, or my doubts. I was an expression of light, a spark of divinity that had never been separate from the universe, even when I felt distant or lost. I was part of a greater consciousness, an essence of infinite love that had always been with me, even in darkness. And regarding my destiny, the answer came as a certainty. There is no death, only transformation. That essence never dies. It merely changes form, evolving in an eternal journey of discoveries and growth. This understanding filled me with a peace that overflowed. All my doubts, all my fears, dissolved in the brilliant truth that I am part of something infinite, a divine spark shining eternally in the vastness of the cosmos. The question, who am I, ceased to be a painful doubt and became a statement. I am love, consciousness, and the eternal light. And where am I headed was answered with deep certainty. Our journey never truly ends. It simply expands, grows, and fulfills itself in eternity. With all that clarity and inner peace, I felt a gentle current beginning to pull me back. As if an unseen hand was guiding me softly out of that space of light and understanding, I realized that everything, the beauty of the landscapes, the energy of love, the certainty of eternity, was slowly fading. It was a delicate movement, like a gentle wave retreating, leaving behind a feeling of gratitude and farewell. In that moment, a silent voice, charged with love, whispered that it was time to return to the physical body, to the limitations of matter, to the world we perceive as real. My essence knew this temporary departure was not final, just a passage, a necessary lesson for spiritual advancement, an opportunity for growth on the eternal journey. Yet, there was also a sense of inevitability, as if everything was unfolding according to a divine plan that I was, for now, accepting with reverence. As this transition unfolded, my heart filled with a mixture of emotions. Gratitude for all I had received, hope that those gifts would remain with me, even within the physical dimension, and a sweet sadness for the temporary goodbye to that peaceful space. The awareness that this moment of return was a choice, an opportunity to carry what I experienced into my earthly life, strengthened me. And slowly, I began to feel my physical body again, its sensations, its pressure, its breath. As the process of returning to my physical body intensified, a wave of gratitude flooded my soul, a deep, almost indescribable gratitude. The sensation of having been touched by such pure truth, of experiencing the essence of universal love, filled my heart more than any words ever could. That moment of farewell from the experiences of light and peace made it clear that everything had been a gift, a unique opportunity for understanding. I felt gratitude for having had the chance to see beyond the physical limitations, for perceiving the truth many seek over countless lifetimes. Every instant of that divine encounter brought a light that never faded, a realization that everything makes sense within the eternal plan of love and light. Gratitude also extended to the hardships, losses, and doubts, for they had brought me to this moment of deeper awakening, this connection with my immortal essence. It was as if every pain, every fear, had been a bridge leading me toward my true nature. And there, in the farewell to these experiences, my soul overflowed with a silent recognition. Life, with all its trials and joys, was an opportunity to expand and remember this infinite source of love. Gradually, I felt my physical body regaining consciousness. The light that once seemed to envelop everything began to fade, as if slowly detaching. Each physical sensation emerged with intensity. The weight of my body on the bed, the warmth of the blankets, the rhythm of my breath. I heard the gentle, rhythmic sound of my breathing, a subtle reminder that I was still alive, but that all those extraordinary experiences had been a passage, a window open to something greater. The feeling of the light, which had embraced me, with infinite love, started to diminish little by little, leaving only a faint, pulsating glow at the back of my perception. My vision returned to the environment around me, the bedroom, the walls, the artificial light. Every detail seemed sharper, yet more delicate, as if a veil had been lifted for a moment and was now slowly settling back into its usual place. At the exact moment I awoke, I felt a mixture of emotions: deep gratitude, renewed hope, and a faint sadness at saying goodbye to that dimension of peace. But there was also a sense of duty to carry all of it into my daily life, to integrate that sacred truth into my routines, my actions, my existence. Each breath, each sound, each image upon awakening became a living reminder that that experience was real and that my journey continued, with a new awareness of who I am and what truly matters. Since that experience, my life has never been the same. Every day gained a new meaning, a depth I had never perceived before. These revelations embraced my soul with a silent certainty, the certainty that we are eternal beings, at peace through unconditional love, and that death is not an ending, but a transformation of consciousness. The peace I experienced, the love I felt, all of it left an indelible mark on me. That encounter gave me a new purpose, to live more love, compassion, and authenticity. I no longer want to get lost in the illusion of separation, vanity, or trivial disputes. Now I understand that each moment is an opportunity to remember who we truly are, eternal light in essence. This experience taught me that the universe is a field of infinite love, accessible to all who are open to that contact, and that our true essence is pure peace and mercy. If I once had doubts and fears, now I carry a certainty that sustains me. Life continues in ways we cannot even imagine, and every experience is a chance to evolve and remember our divine soul. The most valuable thing I can do is share this message, helping others find their own path of light. I believe that, at our core, we are all destined for this journey, returning home, to the endless love from which we came. And on this path, every small step of love and faith is a symphony that brings us closer to our deepest truth. This is the greatest lesson of all, that we are, and always will be, light, love, and eternity. Gradually, as I resumed my routine after that transformative experience, something within me had changed profoundly. Once, my days were a relentless race, a cycle of work, hollow expectations, and seeking approval. Everything seemed like a way to fill an emptiness, to escape the silence that threatened to consume me. But now, everything felt different. The small things that used to go unnoticed began to carry new meaning. Conversations in a store, a smile from someone passing by, even the wind touching my face. Everything now seemed imbued with a subtle presence of care. I realized that the coincidences I once dismissed as trivial now appeared as signs of a benevolent force guiding my steps. I became more attentive, more sensitive to the emotions of others. People who once seemed like obstacles or routine tasks now appeared as delicate, fragile souls, precious in their vulnerability. The understanding that each life is an expression of something greater brought me a silent gratitude, strengthening my certainty that I am being cared for by something infinite. After all I experienced within that light, my relationship with spirituality deepened beyond conventional religiosity. I ceased to see faith as something distant or occasional. It became a constant presence on my daily journey, a loving force silently enfolding me. I began to seek answers within, exploring meditation, praying sincerely, and opening my soul to a greater truth, that a divine essence sustains us, that we are profoundly loved, regardless of our imperfections. This new connection brought an indescribable peace, a feeling that I was finally aligning my life with my true essence. Yet it also carried a sense of responsibility, to live with greater authenticity, with genuine love for my actions and thoughts, as an expression of gratitude for being touched by a greater force. In every simple day, I realized that my soul had awakened to a higher purpose, to remember who we truly are, and to spread that light to others who, like me, might still be seeking. The deepest transformation lay in my way of acting and thinking. The near-death experience revealed the fragility of life and the immense importance of valuing each moment, each person. My empathy grew stronger. It became natural to want to help, listen, and offer support with an open heart. Small actions that once seemed insignificant now carried profound meaning. A gesture of love, a word of hope, a sincere smile. I saw every contact, every exchange, as an opportunity to spread light. My purpose ceased to be a selfish chase for success and became a mission to live more altruistically, spreading love wherever I went. I felt that experience had given me a sacred responsibility to share what I had encountered, to help others find their way back to their divine essence. After all, I realized that we are all this light, this energy of love that never fades. And in helping others, I also remember who I truly am, a never-ending spark of light and infinite love.